Breaking a generational habit is not about willpower. It's about rewiring. Habits operate through a neurological loop. There's a cue, a behavior, and then a reward. For instance, you feel stress, you'll get a drink. You feel relieved. There's a celebration, you get a drink. There's excitement. There's the loneliness, you get a drink. You're numbing. Alcohol also releases dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for reward. It tells your brain, good, do it again. Over time, the brain begins anticipating the reward before the drink even happens. This is science, y'all. I don't make this up. That's why cravings appear before the first sip. But when you remove alcohol, your brain has to relearn how to regulate itself. And this is where many people relapse. Not because they're weak, but because their nervous system hasn't recalibrated yet. And that recalibration takes time. Good day, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Break the Cycles with me, Alicia Shuri. Today, we're talking about something that hides in plain sight, not from a place of shame, not from a place of moral leadership, but from a place of awareness. Because sometimes what we call normal is actually inherited. And sometimes what we call social drinking is actually generational coping. Hey, soul sister. Before we dive in, make sure you followed and subscribed to this podcast so you never miss the next drop of healing energy. And I want to hear from you. Leave a comment or some feedback. Let me know what's been resonating with you and what topics you want me to cover in future episodes. Your voice helps me shape this space for our community. Also, if something in this episode speaks to your spirit, share it with a friend, a sister, or anyone who's walking their own healing journey. Because together, we're not just healing, we're evolving, expanding, and reclaiming our power. Now, let's get into today's episode. This episode isn't about judging anyone. It's more about asking a deeper question. What did I inherit that I never consciously chose? I didn't realize alcohol was generational until I was out of my teens. That's when awareness started expanding for me. That's when I began connecting the dots between childhood experiences and adult behaviors. And when I zoomed out, I saw it clearly. It wasn't just one side of my family. It was both. On my dad's side, alcohol was heavily present. My grandpa was always drinking. I remember going over there and seeing him sitting on the couch with his cigarettes and alcohol. That was his rhythm, like clockwork. That was his identity. He didn't really engage with us at all. He didn't play with us. Alcohol was just always there. It was his companion. Then I saw it mirrored in my dad. Not necessarily every day, but when he drank, it was heavy. And in our home, it was normalized. My sister and I were even allowed to drink young. I was around, 13, maybe 12. It didn't feel rebellious. It felt permitted. On my mom's side, addiction showed up too. Drugs, alcohol. If one wasn't there, the other was. So when I started looking honestly at my family's history, I realized something. Addiction wasn't random. It was a pattern. It was woven into both sides of my lineage. And awareness hit me with one simple realization. This isn't random. This is generational. Generational patterns rarely look dramatic. They look normal. They show up as rituals, as traditions, as habits. as stress responses that nobody questions. Children don't grow up analyzing behavior, they grow up observing behavior. When children watch alcohol used to celebrate, to cope, to grieve, to relax, to socialize, and escape, the nervous system begins wiring alcohol to emotional regulation. Not because anyone explicitly teaches it, but because repetition teaches it. The brain starts to build these associations. Stress, oh, go drink. Let's celebrate. Let's have a drink. I'm lonely. Let's drink. Ooh, there's a connection. Let's have a drink. And eventually, the pattern feels automatic. That's not weakness. That's simply conditioning. When I looked honestly at my family, alcohol was masking pain. My parents' generation carried childhood trauma. They didn't have tools and resources to cope or deal with it. There was mental health struggle. They were attracting toxic relationships, emotional suppression. Alcohol softened it for them. It blurred the edges. It delayed emotions that felt too overwhelming to face. It became emotional anesthesia. When life got overwhelming, that was their outlet. And for me, it trickled down. When I experienced heartbreak, when I entered toxic relationships, when I felt stress, when I felt disconnected, drinking felt like an instant relief. And what's interesting is how relational it became. If my partner drank, I drank. If he suppressed, I suppressed. We mirrored each other. That's how patterns sustain themselves. Alcohol doesn't remove pain, it postpones it. When you numb stress with a substance, the nervous system never learns how to regulate naturally. You become dependent on it. It never practices breathing through discomfort, sitting with grief, processing anger, tolerating loneliness. Instead, it learns one simple response: escape. And the more the nervous system relies on escape, the less resilient it becomes, which means the cycle tightens over time. So I want to be very clear about something. I did not just stop drinking overnight. This was more than a 5-year process, I want to say, at least 5 years. At one point, I was drinking almost daily, not necessarily to get drunk, but a glass of wine or a beer most days. Then I reduced it to weekends. Then I stopped keeping alcohol in the house because if it was there, I would drink it. Then I became what people call a social drinker, only drinking when I went out with friends or to dinner. And let me tell you, fine dining was my thing. And I always had to get the fancy cocktails. It was like celebratory drinks. It felt classy. It felt controlled. It felt harmless. But it was still habitual. There was one moment in particular that made me stop and think. I was out at dinner one night, nice restaurant, nice atmosphere, good company. The kind of night where ordering a drink just feels like part of the experience, like just had to do it. So I ordered one. And I remember sitting there holding the glass. I think it was an old fashioned. It's one of my last go-tos. And having this strange moment of awareness, I asked myself quietly in my head, of course, if alcohol wasn't on the menu, would I actually need it right now? And the answer surprised me because it was no. I didn't need it. Many of us don't. But I realized something deeper in that moment. I had been conditioned to associate certain environments with drinking. Go out to dinner, you get a drink. We're celebrating something, get a drink. Stressful work week, get a drink. Going on a date night, get a drink. It had become automatic. And once I saw that pattern clearly, I couldn't unsee it. That moment didn't change everything overnight, but it planted a seed of awareness. And then I met the love of my life, my twin. And what changed everything was this. We both had alcoholism in our lineage, and we started noticing something. If he was drinking, I wanted to drink. If I was drinking, he wanted to drink. We triggered each other, not from toxicity necessarily, but from pattern recognition. And because he is my true soulmate, we had the kind of honesty where we could say, this is generational on both sides, and we don't want to pass this on. But even then, it wasn't immediate. There were attempts. We slowed down. We had a couple failures, social relapses. But eventually, something started happening physically. My hangovers got worse. I started getting sick. There were moments where I blacked out. And eventually, my body said, no more, Alicia. And sometimes the body decides before the mind does. That's when we stopped drinking alcohol. And we transitioned to kava root, which is natural and widely used in the Pacific. It gives a calming, focused sensation without the hangover or the damage alcohol causes to your kidneys and liver and all that. For us, it became a bridge, not another addiction, a bridge towards nervous system independence. And eventually, the desire for alcohol just faded. So, breaking a generational habit is not about willpower, it's about rewiring. Habits operate through a neurological loop. There's a cue, a behavior, and then a reward. For instance, you feel stress, you'll get a drink, you feel relieved. There's a celebration, you get a drink, there's excitement. There's the loneliness, you get a drink, you're numbing. Alcohol also releases dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for reward. It tells your brain, feel good, do it again. Over time, the brain begins anticipating the reward before the drink even happens. This is science, y'all. I don't make this up. That's why cravings appear before the first sip. But when you remove alcohol, your brain has to relearn how to regulate itself. And this is where many people relapse. Not because they're weak, but because their nervous system hasn't recalibrated yet. And that recalibration takes time. For me, I replaced alcohol with regulation. It wasn't just kava, even the kava wore off, right? Because your body gets immune to something that you just keep doing. So I replaced it with things that stuck: movement, yoga, breath work, grounding. You cannot subtract a coping mechanism without adding a regulation mechanism. That's the science of rewiring. And once you do, there is no going back. I promise you that. As I became sober, the chaos in my head quieted. My intuition got even louder. I became more sensitive to environments, to energy, to my own inner voice. Sobriety sharpened everything. And it also brought solitude. And solitude can feel lonely, but it's so powerful. Because when you remove outside noise, you finally hear yourself. Self-trust grew every time. I chose regulation over numbing. It grew in private. It grew when no one was watching. And that's when I realized breaking a cycle isn't just about stopping something. It's about reclaiming clarity. Steep, y'all. Freedom now feels like a different kind of high. Sobriety is an elevation. It's grounded, clear, liberating. When I get triggered now, I move, I breathe, I journal, I meditate. There's no more escaping, no more storing it in my body. And once you reach that level of freedom, there is no desire to go back. Hey there, sis. If you've been noticing the same emotional patterns repeating, feeling disconnected from yourself, or sensing that something within you is ready to rise, I want to invite you into something intentional. I've created a 3-day guided experience called Awaken Your Highest Self. This isn't a live workshop. It's a self-paced container designed to support real transformation. You'll receive instant access to day 1, and then day 2 and day 3 will unlock each day. So you can actually integrate what you're learning and not just consume it. Each day includes guided teachings and worksheets to help you build awareness of the cycles holding you back, regulate your energy, and step into deeper alignment with who you're becoming. This isn't about fixing yourself, it's about remembering who you are. You can begin anytime at aliciacherie.com/workshop. You might not struggle with alcohol, but maybe there's something else that plays the same role. Maybe it's overworking. Maybe it's scrolling. Maybe it's emotional eating. Maybe it's staying busy so you don't have to feel. The substance changes, but the pattern is the same. Avoidance often disguises itself as comfort, but awareness breaks the disguise. So let's get ready to do a guided meditation together. Or close your, sit up comfortably or lay down if you're in a place to do so. Close your eyes and take a slow breath in. Picture yourself standing. Behind you are generations. Your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors. You see them. You honor them. They survived in many ways they knew how. Now gently say, I honor you, but I do not carry what is not mine. Take another slow breath. Feel your feet rooted. Feel your spine strong. You are not rejecting your lineage. Mm-mm. You are simply refining it. Now repeat this softly. Awareness is my first act of freedom. Awareness is my first act of freedom. I am allowed to end cycles with compassion. I am allowed to end cycles with compassion. Just breathe into that for a moment. Soak it in. Feel present. Feel rooted. And most importantly, feel free. Breaking this cycle wasn't about shame, it was about clarity. And clarity builds liberation. It really does. So until next time, keep choosing awareness, keep choosing regulation, and keep breaking cycles.